everybody, welcome to Moto. Today we have the bike finally finished. In this episode we're going to talk about the last few things that I had to do to get it safetied, the cost of the whole build, what's next, and make sure to stick around to the end to watch a little montage of all that it took to get this thing to where it is, and of course a final look at the final product. So check it out. Alright, so here we are at the back of the bike to talk about kind of the last few things that had to be done before the bike is actually finished and street legal. So I had everything in place, and then when I took it for safety, the guys at the mechanic shop told me a few things that I should watch out for. So for example, the way that I had made the brackets for the mudguard, I only had these two brackets here. And the mudguard, if you push slightly on it, would touch the tire. And that was something that they pointed out, and it was just not safe the way it is. Obviously, the tires on the bike are quite old. The tire that was originally on this bike was a 02 in the back, so 2002 model, and the one in the front right now is a 2006. So generally speaking, you shouldn't really be keeping tires more than 7 years. But I decided that for this summer, I'm going to kind of go with these ones. The one thing that I did do was I took the tire and the rim from the parts bike, since this one is actually an 09. So 09 versus 02, quite a bit newer, so much better. And also the main reason I did it was the old tire had a massive flat spot down the middle of it, so pretty much like this area right here was completely flat. Now on this tire you can see it's actually round, so that was definitely an issue. And then the last problem that I had was, as I was driving away from the mechanic shop, the brackets that I had made for this thing, even though the axle bolt is tightened to spec, somehow this thing still managed to rotate over forward, and apparently when it comes up to the top, the license plate comes right at the tail light, so it cracked the tail light yet again. So unfortunately I had to replace it one more time. Now that wasn't that much of a problem, since now that I replaced it, turns out that the old one I had was actually defective. This new one actually works perfectly without any resistors or any of that stuff, and I was able to hook it up to actually blink properly when I press the brake, so now it doesn't just get brighter but actually blinks. And I actually hooked up the blinkers to it as well, so when the bike is on and you put the blinkers on, you get something like, so this is the light as it's on, and then when you do the blinkers, you get this kind of pattern going, and then when you do brake, it ends up flashing red. So that's solved, and yeah, so that's pretty much it in terms of what the final steps were. Obviously I got the side covers back on, and all the electrical was figured out. On my ride to here, I ended up losing one of these covers on the horn, but whatever, that will do. So now let's go over the cost of the build. Alright, so what does it cost to build a cafe racer? For me, it ended up costing me just under $4,000 Canadian. Now that includes buying two motorcycles. The parts bike was $400, and the actual bike ended up being $1,300. So that's a base cost of $1,700 out of the $3,800 that it costs to build the bike. That's not bad. That means that I only spent $2,000. Yeah, roughly $2,000 to $2,100 on parts. That's obviously not including all the tools that I needed and the amount of redos that I had to do in time. But in terms of the cost, there wasn't much. Like in terms of things that the most expensive things that I had to buy were obviously the two bikes. But then if we look at the cost, the battery was one of the most priciest things. And of course with the battery I needed a regulator rectifier. So those two together were just under $500. Next we had the gasket kit, front brake pads, the clutch rebuild kit, the brand new clutch components. All of those were kind of like each was roughly $150. The speedo calibrator, that was $120, $130. And of course the tail light. I bought in total 4 tail lights. The first one got cracked in the basement of the condo. The second one got cracked by the mudguard. The third one got super delayed in delivery, and the fourth one is actually installed on the bike. So yeah, technically to build a functioning cafe racer, you don't need that much money. Obviously, this is still using the old tires, it's still using the old suspension, and if you want a bike that performs a little better, you should probably look into changing those things. But nevertheless, this is a working motorcycle. So yeah, $3,813.23. That's the total amount that it took to build this bike. Not bad. Alright guys, make sure to subscribe, hit the little bell for notifications when new videos become available, because there is some exciting stuff coming up. And to follow, here's a montage of what it took to build this guy. Alright, so that was it. The bike is done. Now what's next? So I'm pretty much gonna enjoy the bike the rest of the season. Now with all the COVID stuff, I don't know if the Distinguished Gentleman's Ride is actually gonna be happening, but if it is, I'm gonna try to sign up for that. I'll expect your guys' support, and hopefully I can join that. Go show off some of the work that I've done, and that will be it. Now, coming into the winter and potentially into the spring next year, I will be starting kind of the next phase of this build, which would be the performance upgrades. So, in particular, focusing on suspension and tires. So make sure to subscribe and click the little bell for notifications when that series becomes available and those videos are up. Make sure to follow me on Instagram at Balkamoto2018, where I'll post intermittent videos from different things that I see around town, as well as little things that I tweak on this bike, as well as the other bike. The Boss is still a project and still will take a lot more to get it to where I want it to be, but yeah. So now there's only one thing left to do. Take the bike and do what it was built to do. Go grab a coffee. All right, let's get some coffee.